Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Kelly again, and we are up to day 5 of our review and routines, and we are going through the routines that we'll be using during our readers workshop time. So here are our learning goals for today. We're going to practice our active listening and constructive conversations. We're going to listen and respond to a story. We're going to explain that some books are written to inform. We're going to read words with Val Team syllable patterns, and we're going to complete a graphic organizer to write a 1-paragraph opinion letter. So first, let's review what we talked about in class yesterday with constructive conversations. We talked about how a conversation is a dialogue between two people where each person expresses their opinion or their point of view and gives evidence or reasons to back that up, and that it's okay to disagree with somebody, but when you disagree, you do it respectfully. Maybe you ask a clarifying question or for more information, and then you give your opinion. So we used the example of what was your favorite season, if you remember that. And we had different opinions about it, and we expressed them by giving reasons for our choice. So today we're going to ask the question, which activity do you like best and why? So that's a question that we may have many, many different opinions about. So think about how you would answer that question if you were having a constructive conversation with someone. Which activity do you like best and why? And what would you say to somebody if they said an activity that you did not like? Like if somebody said, I like to go to amusement parks and ride on the rides and go on the upside down roller coasters, I might say, oh, I don't like doing that because I'm afraid of heights and I don't like going upside down. So how would you answer that question? Which activity do you like best and why? And how would you express your opinion if maybe somebody said an activity that you did not care for? So think about that for a minute. Now we're going to practice our active listening by listening to a read aloud of the story of Ruby Bridges, which is a book you may have heard before. And remember, when we're actively listening, we are looking at the speaker, our body and our hands are quiet. We're listening. We may have show facial expressions by what the speaker is saying, and we're being respectful. Also, while we are listening to the story, remember that authors write books for different purposes. And I want you to think about, what do you think the author of the story of Ruby Bridges' purpose was? To persuade or to convince the reader of something, to inform or give information or teach about a topic, or for entertainment, to hold the interest of the reader. So while we're listening to the story of Ruby Bridges, we are actively listening, and in our mind, we're thinking about, what do we think the author's purpose is or was when they wrote this book, and why?
Welcome to Teacher Reads. I'm Miss S. Today, we are going to read The Story of Ruby Bridges, written by Robert Coles and illustrated by George Ford. This book was suggested by Miss St. Facil's 3rd grade class. Thank you. Ruby Bridges was born in a small cabin near Tylertown, Mississippi. We were very poor. Very, very poor, Ruby said. My daddy worked picking crops. We just barely got by. There were times when we didn't have much to eat. The people who owned the land were bringing in machines to pick the crops. So my daddy lost his job. And that's when we had to move. I remember us leaving. I was 4, I think. In 1957, the family moved to New Orleans. Ruby's father became a janitor. Her mother took care of the children during the day. After they were tucked in bed, Ruby's mother went to work scrubbing the floors in a bank. Every Sunday, the family went to church. We wanted our children to be near God's Spirit, Ruby's mother said. We wanted them to start feeling close to Him from the very start. At that time, Black children and white children went to separate schools in New Orleans. The Black children were not able to receive the same education as the white children. It wasn't fair, and it was against the nation's law. In 1960, a judge ordered 4 Black girls to go to 2 white elementary schools. 3 of the girls were sent to McDonough 19. 6-year-old Ruby Bridges was sent to first grade in the William France Elementary School. Ruby's parents were proud that their daughter had been chosen to take part in an important event in American history. They went to church. We sat there and prayed to God, Ruby's mother said, that we'd all be strong and we'd have courage and we'd get through any trouble. And Ruby would be a good girl and she'd hold her head up high and be a credit to her own people and a credit to all the American people. We prayed long and we prayed hard. On Ruby's first day, a large crowd of angry white people gathered outside the France Elementary School. The people carried signs that said they didn't want Black children in a white school. People called Ruby names. Some wanted to hurt her. The city and state police did not help Ruby. The President of the United States ordered federal marshals to walk with Ruby into the school building. The marshals carried guns. Every day for weeks that turned into months, Ruby experienced that kind of school day. She walked into the France school surrounded by marshals, wearing a clean dress and a bow in her hair, and carrying her lunch pail. Ruby walked slowly for the first few blocks. As Ruby approached the school, she saw a crowd of people marching up and down the street. Men and women and children shouted at her. They pushed towards her. The marshals kept them from Ruby by threatening to arrest them. Ruby would hurry through the crowd and not say a word. The white people in the neighborhood would not send their children to school. When Ruby got inside the building, she was all alone, except for her teacher, Miss Henry. There were no other children to keep Ruby company, to play with and learn with, to eat lunch with. But every day, Ruby went into the classroom with a big smile on her face, ready to get down to the business of learning. She was polite and she worked well at her desk, Miss Henry said. She enjoyed her time there. She didn't seem nervous or anxious or irritable or scared. She seemed as normal and relaxed as any child I've ever taught. So Ruby began learning how to read and write in an empty classroom in an empty building. Sometimes I'd look at her and wonder how she did it, said Miss Henry. How she went by those mobs and sat here all by herself and yet seemed so relaxed and comfortable. Miss Henry would question Ruby in order to find out if the girl was really nervous and afraid, even though she seemed so calm and confident. But Ruby kept saying she was doing fine. The teacher decided to wait and see if Ruby would keep on being so relaxed and hopeful, or if she'd gradually begin to wear down, or even decide that she no longer wanted to go to school. Then one morning, something happened. Miss Henry stood by a window in her class, as she usually did, watching Ruby walk towards the school. Suddenly, Ruby stopped, right in front of the mob of howling and screaming people. She stood there facing all those men and women. She seemed to be talking to them. Miss Henry saw Ruby's lips moving and wondered what Ruby could be saying. The crowd seemed ready to kill her. The marshals were frightened. They tried to persuade Ruby to move along. They tried to hurry her into the school, but Ruby wouldn't budge. Then, Ruby stopped talking and walked into the school. When she went into the classroom, Miss Henry asked her what happened. Miss Henry told Ruby that she had been watching and that she was surprised when Ruby stopped and talked with the people in the mob. Ruby became irritated. "I didn't stop and talked with them," she said. "Ruby, I saw you talking," Miss Henry said. "I saw your lips moving." "I wasn't talking," said Ruby. "I was praying. I was praying for them." Every morning, Ruby had stopped a few blocks away from school to say a prayer for the people who hated her. This morning, she forgot until she was already in the middle of the angry mob. When school was over for the day, Ruby hurried through the mob as usual. After she walked a few blocks and the crowd was behind, Ruby said the prayer she repeated twice a day, before and after school. "Please, God, try to forgive those people, because even if they say those bad things, they don't know what they're doing. So you could forgive them, just like you did those folks a long time ago when they said terrible things about you." By the time Ruby was in second grade, the mobs have given up their struggle to scare Ruby and defeat the federal judge's order that New Orleans schools be desegregated so that children of all races might be in the same classroom. Year after year, Ruby went to the France school. She graduated from it, then went on to graduate from high school. The end.
Okay, so what do you think the author's purpose was in writing the story of Ruby Bridges? Do you think the author's purpose was to persuade, to inform, or to entertain? So I think one of the reasons was to inform or to teach us about something. So how would you know that this book was meant to inform or give us information or facts about a topic? And do you think the author could have had another purpose for writing this book too? If so, what would the other purpose be, and how do you know that? So if we were having this conversation in class, I might ask you to support your answer with examples and evidence from the text. I might say to you, how do you know that? What could you tell me from the story that makes you think that? Okay, it's independent reading time and you know what to do. Find a comfortable spot to read a book of your choice for 15 minutes. You can use a timer, a phone timer, a kitchen timer. There's a timer that's linked down here from YouTube that you can try. Just put in 15-minute timer. Start the timer, and when the timer rings, you can pause the video first, start the timer, and then when the timer goes off, you can come back and restart the video. Okay, we're going to move on to writing. And we talked about, we brainstormed some topics to write a persuasive essay, to convince somebody of something, or to get people to agree with your opinion on something. And we had some different ideas of what we could write about. So one of the topics that we thought people might have different opinions on would be school uniforms. Should school uniforms be allowed or be required at Rush School? And we had some different opinions about that. So let's say that we're going to write a letter about why we think that school uniforms should not be required at Rush School. In our graphic organizer here, you see that we would first state our opinion. So we might say, I do not think that uniforms should be required at Eleanor Rush School. Now, we have to back up that opinion with some reasons. So we might say, for reason number one, to begin with, it does not allow children to express themselves and to wear different kinds of clothes if everybody is required to wear the same thing. We can't express our individuality. So we might put that for reason number one. Reason number two, in addition, families would have to spend more money to purchase the school uniforms. Finally, families would have to do more laundry at home because they would have to wash the school uniform every day so that the students could wear them the next day to school. So I have 3 reasons. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick your opinion, write your opinion statement, and then write your 3 reasons. And then at the end, we would have to restate our opinion, sort of say it again in different words. It is clear that uniforms at Rush School would be a very bad idea for families and students. Okay, so think back to what you wrote for your ideas about writing something that is your opinion or a persuasive essay. So you saw that graphic organizer that we just looked at. Now you're going to choose a topic from your persuasive topic list. And you should have come up with 3 topics that you made yesterday. And you are going to complete a graphic organizer. So you're going to make sure that you fill in all of the sections of the graphic organizer. You're writing in complete sentences. So use capitals and proper punctuation. So you're going to go to Google Doc number 1. It's called Persuasive Writing Graphic Organizer. You're going to open that up. It should look just like the sample that I showed you. And you're going to type your opinion sentence, 3 reasons, and then restate your opinion in a different way. And you are using complete sentences for all of these. So you may stop the video here, go complete Google Doc number 1, Persuasive Writing Graphic Organizer, and then come back when you're finished. Okay, now we're going to talk about our word study today, which will be Vowel Teams. And Vowel Teams, think of a team, right? It's a group of people that work together, right? They work together towards a common goal. So Vowel Teams are 2 vowels that work together to make one sound. And here we have a list of some common vowel teams: A-I, A-W, A-Y, and you can see the rest. Now, as you're reading them, think in your head, what sound do those vowel teams make? For example, AI makes the A sound. AW makes the AW sound. AY makes the A sound. EA makes the E sound. So when 2 vowels are together, they only make one vowel sound. And you may have heard, when you were younger at a different grade, when 2 vowels go walking, the first one does all the talking. That is usually true. There are rule breakers, but that is usually true. So for example, if it's E and A, it would say E. Okay, so now let's take a look at these words. We have words that have some common vowel teams, right? 2 vowels that are working together. So look at each word and decide what is the vowel sound that they make together. So for example, the first word here is poison. The vowel team is O-I. They make the OI sound. Paycheck. AY makes the A sound. Freedom. EE makes the E sound. Spoiling. OI makes the OI sound. Mailbox. AI makes the A sound. Impeach. EA makes the E sound. Amount. OU makes the OW sound. EA. EA makes the E sound. OO makes the OO sound. Now this word is one of those tricky ones with 2 vowel teams. OU makes the OO sound. In this word, 14. EE makes the E sound. AY makes the A sound. OW makes the OW sound. and OY makes the OI sound. So that's one that has two vowel teams. It's a little trickier. So now you're going to pause or stop the video here. You're going to open up the Google Doc number 2, and you're going to complete the word study activity for vowel team syllables. So you can pause or stop the video here, open up Google Doc number 2, and complete the word study activity for the vowel team syllables. And don't forget to submit when you are done. Okay, boys and girls, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.